Friends, welcome at the Summary Club. Today we will have a very unusual topic and moreover, we will even do the first summary on ourselves. This time we will talk about psychology, mysticism and even real esotericism, and most importantly about what to do if you think, and perhaps not only think, that the soul of a recently deceased relative or very close person gives somehow about himself. When it happens most often, why, and what to do in such cases. And we'll also answer the most common questions from the hundreds of comments under our articles and videos on the subject. Does it really happen? Yes, to many people the problem seems far-fetched, and in their opinion it happens very rarely to ordinary people, and most people believe that it is simply a psychological effect of some emotional overstrain and grief they have experienced. And everything seems to be from the position of official science, but the problem is that in fact on our website and YouTube channel of the Learning and Self-Development portal concerning esoterics we receive an incredible number of questions and their personal experiences on this subject. There are dozens of real questions and requests for advice on this topic almost every day. Well, since our videos on this subject have already been watched by hundreds of thousands of people, and we have also answered hundreds, if not thousands of questions and helped thousands of people in their individual situations, today we are doing a summary on ourselves and will answer in more detail what you should do if you think that the soul of your deceased loved one, husband, wife, children, parents and other relatives come to you after death. We'll leave links to the last video and an article on our other channel in the description, but in 2 to 3 minutes I'll briefly tell you what it was about if you haven't watched it yet. And so, it is no secret that many people feel almost physically and spiritually and by other signs that the souls of their loved ones come back to them or try to convey and say something. This is usually evidenced by, first, various smells associated with this person, such as a favorite in life perfume, or on the contrary, the usual smell of cigarettes. Secondly, it can be some barely perceptible phantom touches to the hair or skin when no one is in the room, or it seems that someone or something is constantly watching you. In general, almost all religions and esoteric teachings claim that the souls of the dead can indeed be present and in contact with us, especially in the first period after death, usually the first 40 days, and especially if they need something from us, or even we need something from them. Real reviews. A great many people in the comments claim that they were actually helped to find some long-lost item, and some were even pushed out of the bus by some unknown force at the wrong bus stop when it was standing close to the exit, but most interestingly, the bus itself literally collided with a car a couple of blocks later and caught fire. It is usually said of such lucky people that fate has given them a second life or a second birth. Of course, we cannot say for sure that they were helped by their relatives, but there are thousands of such stories, which already gives rise to some doubts about their non-accidental nature. Also often such mystical phenomena cause, and in parallel interference in electrical appliances, various flashing lamps, lights, stopped or accelerated clock, starting interference in the TV, various noises in the radio and the like. There are different knocks on the windows, noises in the kitchen, noises in closed empty rooms, and most often a noticeable cold, or even a cold breeze in the rooms even with closed windows. It takes a long time to tell you why this is so, but in a nutshell we can say that ghosts use a bit of ambient heat energy to physically materialize in this world, if only for a moment. Therefore, cold-related phenomena are almost always present when such contact is real and not just your fantasy. Also, sometimes in dreams, and even in reality you may constantly come across some numbers, codes and other more complex messages that you think you need to decipher. It is still very common when pigeons or other birds fly in through an open window, or perhaps they sit on your hands in the park, and it is also not uncommon when such phenomena begin to worry and run around the room your usual pets, cats and dogs, because they have much more sensitivity. Again, it is not for nothing that cats have been associated with the netherworld since ancient Egypt.
Subscribe to the Summary Club and watch short versions of the most popular and useful videos every day.
What to do if you have an encounter with the soul of a deceased relative. In general, indeed, oddly enough, thousands of people say that every day they encounter this kind of thing. Many write even to us personally, and of course many are concerned about it for one reason or another. Well, for some it is a kind of last hope to get at least once more in touch with a loved one. And they have the main question, what to do about it, and how to act in such situations. Naturally, there can be an endless number of options for what to do. It all depends on the specific circumstances, as well as your personal history and relationships. The most favorable case is when you only run into a loved one once after his death, and he somehow lets you know that he's doing great and is leaving this world forever. In that case, he simply says goodbye to you, so to speak, to his pure soul and your pure conscience. After that, there is usually a kind of relief in the heart, and all the weirdness and phenomena stop from that moment on. In fact, that's just about how it should ideally be. What to do if the connection with the deceased has not ceased? But, understandably, the ideal parting with deceased loved ones, which most often most people do not notice, does not always go away. Problems arise in three main cases. The first is when the soul of a relative is trying to help you in some way. In this case, you need to somehow guess what the signs are talking about. If you are not able to decipher your dreams correctly, or just relax, and perhaps your loved one will arrange everything in the best possible way. In general, sometimes it really happens that people accidentally find treasures, get away from an imminent death by missing a plane, and similar strange coincidences. It's just a matter of being receptive and not being afraid to watch the signs and being grateful for it. You need to help your loved one. The second problem is a little more complicated, although in some ways it is simpler at the same time. After all, now your personal life or health is not threatened, but your loved one, on the contrary, probably urgently needs your help. It's not hard to know that this is your case. Usually the relatives of the person who urgently needs help and they themselves, as they say, are scratching their heads. That is, sometimes it happens that in life, or just recently you have not been very attached and close to this person, but after his death you have a strange bad feeling. You have some kind of heaviness in your heart and soul, very bad negative feelings, although nothing threatens your life and peace of mind. In fact, in this way, by the clan and family connection, people feel that a loved one needs help, even after he or she is gone. Here too, we will not surprise you much, we have already told you many times about almost all memorial rituals and their real meaning. Depending on your religion and worldview, pray, place candles in the church, make funeral rites, order funeral services, and hold memorial services for all possible events. On 3, 9 and 40 days after death, and how to do it correctly we have also told in separate videos. And most importantly, especially if you are not a religious person and the proceeding is alien to you, of course, do good deeds on behalf of the deceased. Give alms, distribute food, clean up not only in your home, but also in the yard and the front yard. In general, help other people with thoughts about that person in every possible way, and then a part of those merits and positive energy will be transmitted to the soul of a loved one. Moreover, you will gradually feel that your heart is becoming lighter and calmer. In fact, these signals will tell you that everything is getting better and that you have really helped in any way you could. Or vice versa, that you still need to try a little more, to do even more good deeds, and to be a little more diligent. It should be understood that most memorial rituals and traditions were invented precisely for this purpose, so that relatives could help the souls of the deceased in adverse situations. Is it permissible for atheists to memorialize? Yes, atheism does not contradict commemoration by kind words and deeds in honor of the deceased, and honestly, even if you do not believe in any mysticism, esotericism and some paranormal phenomena, you in any case, do not lose anything, and definitely will not fall into any sect or religion. The most bad thing that can happen to you is that you will do bright and good things for a while in memory of your near and dear one. Moreover, even from the position of any scientific psychology, it will at least distract you from negative and heavy thoughts about the loss. And in practice you will soon not notice how the former grief is gone. Only a glowing memory and gratitude that this person was in your life. And if it's really hard on the soul, then at least, do not lie alone at home. Do not torment, and do not suffer, at least just take a walk in the fresh air, and ideally go to work with your hands, do creative work, and if possible sincerely and gratuitously help other people by doing good deeds. Here's a simple tip and actually a super effective psychological tip that will work in any case, whether you believe in its effectiveness or not. In fact, you should do the same as religious people and any other people, because in this way you yourself will bring more and more good, warmth and light into this world. And this is hardly a hindrance or disadvantage to anyone. In the end, under the most favorable conditions, such a sincere and bright person will be able to help both his children and his descendants. And such bright people in a family are a great fortune and a great blessing for the whole family, and perhaps for the whole city, if not for the country. By the way, with about the same logic also our distant ancestors made great mounds where various saints and leaders were buried who had a huge positive creative force and energy, then spread it around for decades, if not centuries. But there are also cases where relatives, on the contrary, only prevent the soul of the deceased to leave this world and keep at least some positive and bright energy. It happens that their excessive attachment, as well as some kind of universal grief, sorrow, depression, and sometimes even suicide, can be very damaging to the soul of the deceased, as well as to themselves, and even to their entire future generation. This is the third, most difficult and negative of the common cases. That is why we are going to talk about it in detail. What to do if you are too attached and can't let go of a relative. And so, we all know, or at least, have heard of cases where a really good person left, and especially if he left very unexpectedly and at a young age, and perhaps it was he who provided financially for the rest of the family. Often relatives, wives, husbands, mothers, fathers or children lose the meaning of their lives and begin to spend almost all their free time crying, depressed and grieving for the deceased person. But the worst thing is if it lasts not one day, not two, not a week, and sometimes not even a month or a year. Such people, even if we do not take into account mysticism, but simply ordinary human psychology, in any case destroy and turn into hell in reality all their future life. And the worst thing is that the lives of other relatives left behind as well. People do this more often, of course, not out of malice, but usually they sincerely think that by suffering, crying, and grieving they are honoring a deceased loved one, or they simply cannot do otherwise because they are literally in pain in their chests. But in fact they are committing a great mistake, and even outright evil in many ways. And as a consequence, in the homes of such excessively tormented people most often occur various brightest cases with the coming of the dead in reality. Sometimes even various ghosts, poltergeists rage, there are so-called generic curses and the like. So now we will look in more detail at what to do and how to act in such cases of extreme attachment. What kind of logic and what exactly to be guided by. And also how to help your acquaintances, friends, and close relatives if they find themselves in a similar situation. After all, unfortunately, the person himself usually does not know how to get out or simply because of strong attachment is not able to do it on his own. It looks like a disease because sometimes severe grief, emotions, and depression are even stronger than addiction to hard drugs and similar substances. And it is a fact, indeed thousands of people every day suffer from such a painful loss, and by their actions only make it worse, and not only for themselves, destroying both their families and the happiness in the lives of many of their remaining relatives. But, of course, there is a way out here as well, there are no hopeless situations. And next time we will definitely give specific advice on how to deal with it, how to get out of it, and restore your former happy life, and even improve it. We hope you're doing well, and you know how to cope with these situations with a light heart, which we, as a portal of self-development and wish you, but if you're interested or you and your relatives really face this problem, we will discuss all these more severe cases and specific tragedies already in the next part, as well as answer all your personal questions here in the comments. We hope this mystical issue of the Summary Club was useful. Also write whether to continue videos on such topics, or it is better to limit ourselves to more traditional and scientifically proven ones. Well, for those who are interested and important, see you in the next episode. All important links will be, as always, in the first comment on YouTube. There you can also write your questions, additions and what you want to see next time, and we'll answer everyone. And friend, don't forget to subscribe to the Summary Club for becoming more successful, educated, kinder and wiser every day. Save hundreds of hours and dollars spending on boring regular education. Feel free to write your opinions and questions about each video. We read all the comments. In addition, go to our official website where you can find reading materials or watch other videos on channel and links in the description. All the best.